Superman can leap tall buildings in a single bound, but Iron Man can push a stock to an all-time high. Who would you rather invest in? Investor Beat starts now. Thanks for watching. I'm Chris Hill. All lights were green on Wall Street today after tech giants like IBM, Intel, and Cisco Systems all helped push the Dow higher. Joining me in studio today, Jason Moser and Bill Barker. Shares of Disney had an all-time high today after Iron Man 3 broke box office records overseas. The film grossed over $195 million in its opening weekend, and the film opens in the U.S. and China this Friday. Jason, we've talked before about this being a hit-driven business. A year ago, we were talking about John Carter and what a debacle that was. It really seems like Disney's in great shape, though. Yeah,
and it seems like when we were talking about John Carter, we were already looking forward to the next inevitable hit. And I think that that leads us to what Disney does so well. They take these names, these long franchises that have great histories, and they just keep extending them over time. And Iron Man's not even like a top-tier superhero, is he? I mean, he's probably second tier when you look at him compared to something like a Batman or a Spider-Man or even a Superman. So what they've done with Iron Man at this point is just amazing, and they're going to keep on stringing this out for however many more Iron Mans that may come out. They're already predicting this to be $1 billion plus movie this year, the first one this year, so I don't see anything but blue skies ahead for Disney.
There are other CEOs that get more accolades and more attention, but when you look at Bob Iger's record, the fact that he bought Pixar and then Marvel, it's just amazing what he's done in a relatively short amount of time. And yet, I can't help but wonder, what happens after he's gone?
Well, I don't think investors have to worry about that yet. Star Wars as well, being one of the big purchases and the one probably most eagerly anticipated. I think that each one of these franchises that has been bought runs very well independently. I mean, Pixar was bought and left to keep being Pixar. Marvel Studios, they had the films that were already being done there. It wasn't Disney coming in and redoing everything that Marvel had been doing well. They just were able to absorb it, keep letting that team develop the characters that they know from the comic book side of the business. Star Wars, again, one hopes will not be Disneyfied. So I think that he's done a good hands-off job of some major acquisitions.
What do you think when you look at the stock? It shares at an all-time high. Is this one of those situations where if you're not a shareholder, do you wait for a pullback? Or, to Bill's point, are you looking a couple years out at Star Wars and saying, no, there's still room to run?
I think you have to look at the room to run here. I mean, this is just a company that continues to fire on all cylinders. And let's remember, too, that the studio entertainment segment is only responsible for about 7% of the company's operating income. It's what they do with those studio entertainment properties that is really just so amazing. And so I love the way Disney makes their money a lot of different ways. And I think for any long-term investor, it's a great one just to buy in drips and drabs over time and no time like the present to get started.
All right, let's get to some of the day's movers and shakers. Moody's hitting a 5-year high after the credit rating agency settled its lawsuit with Standard & Poor's Ratings Services. Obviously not a great long-term strategy, but a great day.
Everybody loves a settled lawsuit, right? I think that's why the stock is feeling such a pop today. I don't think people are really that high on Moody's per se, but the problem is, for better or worse, we are dependent on these ratings agencies. That said, I still don't know that I would sink any money into Moody's. I think long-term investors, they can better serve looking elsewhere.
Choice Hotels down after first quarter earnings came in lower than expected. Last week, stock hit a 6-year high. Was this just sort of a natural pullback?
I think so. I think that although the numbers were a little light, most of the metrics for the company were pretty good. They operate more of the quality in the mid-tier, low-tier hotels. So I think that investors are probably going to do better with the higher tier hotels and operators right now. But as you say, the all-time high was a tough thing to then show any kind of a miss on earnings for.
Last week, George Soros took a stake in JCPenney. Today, the embattled retailer announced it secured a $1.75 billion loan from Goldman Sachs. It's up more than 10% in the last couple of days. Is this time to buy?
I don't think so, Chris. I mean, you've heard that old saying, you can't borrow your way out of debt. And I think that really does apply here with JCPenney, because we still don't really have any idea how they're going to solve this underlying problem of boosting store traffic, selling more things. So while it's great they're figuring out a way to get some financing, I'd still stay away from the stock.
And finally, Tenet Healthcare up after 2 analysts upgraded the stock. Tenet is one of the largest owners of hospitals in the U.S. It's close to an 8-year high. Do you like it at this price?
Not really. This is a move that occurred when Medicare announced there would be a reimbursement of increase of 0.8% for the year. Some people were expecting perhaps a decrease of up to 1%. That's good news for Tenet and all the other hospitals, which are also up on the news. But it's been sort of a nice run for their stocks, and they've still got a ways to go to really know how much money they're going to be making in the new healthcare environment.
All right, that's going to do it for Monday. Let's look ahead to the rest of the week. Jason Moser, what's the stock you have on your radar?
So DreamWorks Animation comes out with earnings tomorrow. You know that rising tide lifts all boats, including dinghies like DreamWorks, and that's what I consider DreamWorks at this point. It's just it plays second fiddle perpetually to Walt Disney. We're going to see how they did with The Croods, which was a movie that came out this past quarter, along with just some more strategy as to how they're going to sort of take those movies and sell more to consumers based on those movies. Again, DreamWorks just plays second fiddle to Disney, and I don't see any reason for that to really change. So if you're looking for a stock to buy, rewind to the beginning of this episode, listen to what we said about Disney, and forget about DreamWorks.
All right, Bill Barker, what about you?
Portfolio Recovery Associates is reporting tomorrow. I think it's interesting because they acquire charged off credit card debt, and then they pursue recovering that. So they buy pennies on the dollar for both credit card and other types of debt which are not being paid, and then they have years and years to pursue through phone calls. They're actually known for not being particularly bad actors in this arena, but it'll be interesting just to see where people's bankruptcies, people's failure to pay their bills on time is this quarter compared to the last few.
All right, for Jason Moser and Bill Barker, I'm Chris Hill. Thanks for watching. We'll see you tomorrow.